The most unique queen in the galaxy said. This man is my mate, and he was surprised people would see Marcus. Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead as he crawled out of the ventilation shaft. On level 7 of Harmony's Edge, the massive space station, stretched out like a metal city in the void, home to over 50 different alien species. Each section was designed for different beings with different needs. The Aquarian sector stayed flooded with their special blue water. The Pyrotheans lived in chambers hot enough to melt steel. The Crystallites needed rooms that rang like bells when they moved. Marcus was just human. He needed normal air, normal temperature, and normal gravity. Nothing special about that. He stood up and checked his tablet. 3 more air filters to replace. In the Zephyrian sector, to broken lights in the main corridor, and a strange humming sound coming from the power core that nobody else wanted to investigate. Just another day for the station's head maintenance engineer. Marcus called a voice behind him. He turned to see Jenny Park, one of the few other humans on the station. She worked in communications and always seemed excited about something. Did you hear the news? What news? Marcus asked, already knowing he probably missed something important. He spent most of his time in the station's guts, fixing things that kept everyone alive. Queen Lyrale is coming here. To Harmony's Edge, Jenny's eyes were wide with excitement. The Nexari Queen herself. Marcus blinked. Even he had heard of. The Nexari, they were the mystery species of the galaxy. In 300 years of space travel, the galaxy had only met them twice. Both times, they had shown up, shared some incredible technology, and then disappeared for decades. Their queen was said to be the most powerful being in known space. When Marcus asked, next week. She's coming for some kind of peace negotiation. Nobody knows what it's about. But every species is sending their best diplomats, the ambassador. Council is going crazy trying to prepare. Marcus nodded. This meant more work for him. When important visitors came, every system on the station had to work perfectly. No broken lights, no strange noises, no air that smelled funny. He had seen what happened when things went wrong during diplomatic visits. The 3-day war between the Keltorians and the Blix started because someone forgot to adjust the gravity in a meeting room. They say she can do impossible things, Jenny continued. Like, she can touch a broken machine and make it work better than new, and she glows from the inside. Some people think she's not really alive, just pure energy in the shape of a person. Sounds like stories to me, Marcus said. He had heard similar tales about other species leaders. Reality was usually much more normal. Jenny shrugged. Maybe. But the council is taking it seriously. They've ordered full maintenance checks on everything. Your boss was looking for you earlier. Marcus sighed. Chief Engineer Rodriguez probably had a list of jobs as long as his arm. Thanks for the warning. He made his way through the station's corridors, past shops selling food from a dozen worlds, past children of different species playing together. In the common areas, past the endless stream of beings who made Harmony's Edge their home. This was what he loved about the station. All these different people living together, working together. It was not always easy, but it worked. The engineering section was in the lower levels. Where the real work happened, Marcus found Rodriguez in the main office, staring at multiple screens showing the station's systems. There you are, Rodriguez said without looking up. We have problems. What kind of problems? Rodriguez pointed at the screens. The kind that could kill everyone if they happened during the Queen's visit. Look at this. The screen showed stress readings from the stations. Main support beams. Some numbers were yellow. A few were red. The station is getting old, Rodriguez explained. All these years of hosting different gravity fields, different atmospheric pressures, different energy types. It's wearing out faster than we can fix. Marcus studied the data. Harmony's Edge was built 50 years ago, designed to last a century. But nobody had planned for the stress of hosting so many different species. With such different needs, what do you need me to do? Marcus asked. Everything. Rodriguez said, check every system, fix everything that's broken, replace everything that might break. We have 7 days to make this station perfect. Marcus took the job list. It was indeed as long as his arm, maybe longer. The Queen arrives on Platform 7, Rodriguez added. That whole section needs to be checked twice. And Marcus, the council specifically asked for you to handle her quarters personally. Me? Why? Because you're the only engineer who has never had a system failure during a diplomatic event. You're reliable. Marcus felt a small spark of pride. Reliable was not exciting, but it mattered. He spent the next 3 days crawling through every tunnel, checking every wire, testing every backup system. The station was like a living thing to him. He knew its sounds, its smells, its moods. When the air recycler in Section 12 made a slight wheeze, he heard it. When the artificial gravity generator in the Tyrolean quarter hummed a half note higher than normal, he noticed. Other species had amazing abilities. The Zephyrians could read minds. The Stellarites could control energy with their thoughts. The Morphoids could change their shape into anything they wanted. Humans could not do any of those things. But humans could fix things. They could take something broken and make it work again. They could look at a problem and find a solution that nobody else thought of. They could work for hours in dangerous places because the job needed to be done. Marcus did not think this was special. It was just what humans did. On the 6th day, he was testing the environmental controls in the Queen's prepared quarters. When the first Nexari ship appeared on the station's sensors, it was still 2 days away, but Marcus could feel the tension building throughout Harmony's edge. Diplomats practiced their greetings. Security teams ran drills. Cooks prepared foods from recipes they had never tried before. Marcus just kept working. Because when Queen Lyrale arrived, everything had to be perfect. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. The day Queen Lyrale arrived, Marcus was checking the backup power systems in Section 4 when the whole station seemed to hold its breath. Every screen in the engineering base showed the same thing, a ship unlike anything in the galaxies. Records. It looked like it was made of liquid starlight, shifting and flowing as it moved. No solid edges. No clear boundaries. Just pure, beautiful energy shaped into something that could travel between stars. Would you look at that? Rodriguez whispered. Marcus watched through the security cameras as the ship docked at Platform 7. The docking process was silent and smooth, like the ship simply flowed into place. No mechanical sounds, no engine noise, nothing. Then she stepped out. Queen Lyrale was tall and graceful, but that was where normal descriptions ended. Her skin seemed to glow from within, soft light moving under the surface like slow lightning. Her hair floated around her head as if she was underwater, but there was no water. She wore robes that shifted color with each step, sometimes blue like deep space, sometimes silver like moonlight, but it was her eyes that made everyone stop and stare. They were ancient, old beyond counting, holding wisdom that made even the eldest Zephyrians look like children. The readings are going crazy. Jenny's voice crackled over the radio. Every sensor near her is showing impossible numbers. Marcus watched the formal greeting ceremony on the monitors. Ambassadors from every major species stood in perfect lines, wearing their finest clothes. The Keltorian representative had polished his scales until they gleamed. The Blix delegation wore their ceremonial crystals. Everyone wanted to make the best impression. Queen Lyrale walked among them like she was floating. Where she passed, the lights grew brighter. The air itself seemed cleaner, even through the cameras. Marcus could see that something about her presence made everything work better. She's heading to the main conference hall, Rodriguez said. All systems show green. You did good work, Marcus. Marcus nodded and returned to his checklist. The Queen's visit was going perfectly so far, but the real meetings would not start until tomorrow. He still had work to do. That was when everything went wrong. The first warning was a small alarm in the power distribution center. Marcus was closest, so he jogged over to check. What he found made his blood turn cold. Someone had planted devices throughout the main power grid. Small, ugly things that pulsed with red light. They were attached to critical junction points. And according to his scanner, they were about to activate. Rodriguez, Marcus shouted into his radio. We have sabotage in the power grid. Multiple devices. What? Are you sure? Marcus was already running toward the next junction box. Very sure. They're set to trigger a cascade failure. If they activate, we'll lose main power, backup power, life support, everything. The devices were clever. They would not just cause a power failure. They would make the failure spread from system to system until the entire station went dark. In the vacuum of space, that meant death for everyone aboard. How long do we have? Rodriguez's voice was tight with worry. Marcus checked his scanner as he reached the second device. Maybe 10 minutes before the first one activates. Then we have maybe 2 minutes before total system failure. I'm sending teams to help. No time. Marcus said, already pulling out his tools. These things are connected to motion sensors. Send. Too many people and they might activate early. I can handle this. It was a lie. There were 12 devices spread throughout the station's most dangerous areas. Places with high radiation, toxic gases, or unstable gravity fields. Places where other species could not safely go, even with protection suits. But Marcus was human. Humans had been walking into dangerous places to fix broken things for thousands of years. He put on his radiation suit and headed into the core sections. The first device was easy to reach but hard to disarm. It took him 3 precious minutes to figure out how to disconnect it safely. The second was in a room filled with poisonous gas from a Venturi life support leak. The third was in the high radiation zone near the main reactor. Each device was different. Each one required him to think fast, work carefully, and ignore the danger around him. While diplomats and guards ran around looking for the saboteurs, Marcus crawled through maintenance shafts and climbed into reactor housings. On the monitors throughout the station, people could see him working. A small human figure in a bulky suit, alone in places where death waited for any mistake. He was on the 8th device when he realized someone was watching him. Through the security cameras in the core section, not just the normal security staff, but someone else, someone important. Marcus did not have time to wonder who it was. The devices were activating faster now. He had maybe 3 minutes left. He sprinted through corridors that would have killed most other species, diving into radioactive chambers and toxic tunnels. His radiation counter was screaming warnings, but he ignored it. The job was not finished. The last device was in the deepest part of the station, where the artificial gravity generator created a field so unstable that most beings could not even stand up. Marcus crawled on his hands and knees, fighting gravity that pulled him in 3 directions at once. With 30 seconds to spare, he disconnected the final device. The station's lights stopped flickering. The air stopped tasting of fear. Harmonies. Edge was safe. Marcus collapsed against a wall, exhausted and probably poisoned by radiation. But everyone was alive. He made his way back to the main levels, expecting to be met by Rodriguez and the security teams. Instead, he found something impossible. The entire diplomatic gathering was waiting for him in the main corridor. Hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all watching him with expressions he could not read. And standing in front of them all was Queen Lyrale. She walked directly to him, her glowing eyes studying his face. Marcus was still in his radiation suit, dirty and tired and probably glowing himself from all the dangerous places he had been. Queen Lyrale reached out and touched his helmet. Where her hand made contact, the radiation detectors went quiet. The poison in his system simply vanished. Then she spoke, her voice carrying to every corner of the station. I have traveled across the galaxy, seen the greatest warriors and wisest scholars of 1,000 species. But this man, this human who risks everything to protect others, who walks into death itself because the job needs to be done, she paused, her ancient eyes never leaving his face. This man is my chosen mate. The silence that followed was so complete that Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Then the galaxy exploded into chaos. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Impossible, shouted Ambassador Krell of the Tyrolean Empire. His massive frame shook with anger. The Nexari do not mate with lesser species. This must be some kind of mistake, said the Zephyrian representative. her mental voice echoing in everyone's minds. Perhaps the queen is unwell. Marcus stood frozen in his radiation suit, feeling like the center of a storm. Hundreds of eyes stared at him. Some looked confused, others looked angry, a few looked scared. Queen Lyrale remained calm, her glowing hand still resting on his helmet. "There's no mistake," she said quietly, but her voice carried to every corner of the station. "I have chosen." "But why him?" demanded Prince Vex of the Stellarite Confederation. His crystalline body pulsed with frustrated energy. "I am heir to 17 star systems. I can control the power of suns, and I can shape reality itself," declared Lord Morpheus of the Shapeshifter Collective, his form shifting between different impressive shapes. "What can this human do that we cannot?" Marcus wanted to disappear. He was just an engineer. He fixed broken things. He was not meant to be the center of galactic politics. "He walks into death to save others," Queen Lyrale said simply. "He asks for nothing in return." These are rare qualities in any species. The crowd erupted again. Arguments broke out between different delegations. The Keltorians hissed at the Blix. The Aquarians made angry bubbling sounds. Even the normally peaceful Crystallites chimed discord. Security Chief Vega stepped forward, trying to restore order. "Please, everyone remain calm. Perhaps we should move this discussion to a private meeting room." "There will be no private meetings." A new voice cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone turned to see 3 tall figures materializing near the docking bay. They appeared out of thin air, becoming solid as they walked forward. Like Queen Lyrale, they glowed with inner light, but their glow was cold and harsh. "The Nexari High Council," someone whispered. The 3 figures wore robes of deep purple that seemed to absorb light around them. Their faces were stern and ancient, showing disapproval that had lasted for centuries. "Lyrale." The center figure spoke, his voice like winter wind. "You have brought shame upon our people." Queen Lyrale straightened, her own glow becoming brighter. "I have made my choice." "Counselor Thane, a choice that violates every tradition of our race," said the second counselor, a female whose eyes burned like stars. "The Nexari do not lower themselves to mate with primitive species." Marcus felt his face grow hot with anger. Primitive. He had just saved everyone on this station, including these arrogant beings who appeared out of nowhere to insult him. "The human is not primitive," Queen Lyrale said, her voice carrying a warning. "He possesses qualities that many of us have forgotten." "Qualities?" The third counselor laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "What qualities could a short-lived, powerless creature possibly have?" "We shall see," Counselor Thane said. He raised his hand, and Marcus felt a strange tingling in the air around him. "By the ancient laws of our people, any who would mate with Nexari royalty must prove their worth through the trials of ascension." The crowd fell silent again. Even Marcus could sense that something important had just happened. "The trials have not been invoked for 1,000 years, Queen Lyrale said, and for the first time, Marcus heard worry in her voice, because no one has been foolish enough to attempt them. Counselor Thane replied, 3 trials await any who would claim such an honor: the trial of mind, the trial of heart, and the trial of spirit. And if I refuse?" Marcus asked, finding his voice. "Then you prove yourself unworthy, and Lyrale returns with us to accept a proper mate from among our own people." Marcus looked at Queen Lyrale. Her ancient eyes met his, and he saw something there he had not expected. Hope. She believed he could do this. "What happened to the others who tried these trials?" Marcus asked. The silence that followed was answer enough. "All have failed," Counselor Thane said with cold satisfaction. "The trials are designed to test the very essence of a being. Mind, heart, and spirit must all prove perfect, or the challenger dies." "That's not fair," Jenny Park pushed through. The crowd, her face red with anger. "You're asking him to die for choosing to love someone." "Love?" The female counselor's laugh was like ice cracking. What could a primitive understand of such concepts? "This is about proving worth to stand beside the most powerful being in the galaxy." Marcus stepped forward, his radiation suit making soft mechanical sounds. "I'll do it." "Marcus." "No," Rodriguez called out. "You don't have to prove anything to these people. But Marcus was looking at Queen Lyrale. She had chosen him for reasons he did not understand. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe he really was just a simple human engineer. But she had healed him with a touch and called him worthy. The least he could do was try. When do these trials begin? Marcus asked. Tomorrow at dawn, Counselor Thane said. Use tonight to prepare yourself, human. Pray to whatever gods you worship, for you will meet them. Soon, the three counselors vanished as suddenly as they had appeared, leaving behind only the scent of ozone and winter stars. The crowd began to disperse. Ambassadors arguing among themselves, security teams trying to restore order. But Marcus stood, still, feeling the weight of what he had agreed to do. Queen Lyrale approached him, moving like flowing water. You do not have to do this, she said quietly. I can return with them, find another way. Marcus shook his head. You chose me for a reason. Maybe I don't understand what that reason is. But I trust you. The trials will test everything you are, she warned. They will push you beyond what any human has ever endured. Then I guess we'll find out what humans are really capable of, Marcus said. For the first time since he had met her, Queen Lyrale smiled. It was like watching the first sunrise over a new world. Yes, she said. I believe we will. As the station settled into an uneasy night, Marcus prepared to face challenges that had killed beings far more powerful than any human. But he had something those others had not. He had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Marcus woke before dawn, his mind clear despite having barely slept. He had spent the night thinking about the trials, but also about broken machines and how they got fixed. Everything was just a problem waiting for the right solution. The trial chamber had been prepared in Harmony's Edge's largest cargo bay. The Nexari High Council had transformed the space into something that hurt to look at directly. Walls flowed like liquid metal. The ceiling showed impossible geometries that made his eyes water, and the floor seemed to exist in several dimensions. At once, representatives from every major species filled the observation decks. Some came to watch Marcus fail. Others hoped he would succeed. All wanted to witness history. Queen Lyrale stood beside the counselors, her face calm, but her hands clenched tight. She gave Marcus a small nod as he entered the chamber. Human. Counselor Thane spoke, his voice echoing strangely in the twisted space. You face 3 trials that have claimed the lives of the galaxy's greatest champions. Are you prepared? Marcus looked around at the assembled crowd. Ambassadors who commanded fleets, scientists who could reshape matter with their thoughts, warriors who had conquered star systems, all watching a simple engineer prepare to die. I'm ready, Marcus said. Then began the trial of mind, the chamber. Around Marcus changed. He found himself standing in a room filled with floating shapes that moved and shifted constantly. Cubes became spheres, spheres became pyramids, pyramids became things that had no names. In the center was a pedestal with a complex device that looked like it had been built by someone having a nightmare. This is the infinite puzzle, Counselor Thane explained. It learns from every attempt to solve it. Each time someone tries, it becomes more complex. It has evolved through 1,000 attempts by the galaxy's greatest minds. You must solve it completely within 1 hour or die. Marcus approached the device. Up close, he could see thousands of moving parts, each one connected to dozens of others. Every time he focused on one section, it changed. The entire thing was alive, shifting, adapting, growing more complex by the second. He watched for 10 minutes, not touching anything. Around him, he could hear murmurs from the crowd. He's already giving up, someone whispered. The human brain cannot comprehend such complexity, another voice said. But Marcus was not giving up. He was doing what he always did when faced with a broken machine. He was watching, learning, understanding. The device was not just a puzzle. It was a system. And all systems, no matter how complex, had basic principles. Marcus pulled out his engineering tools. The crowd gasped. Previous challengers had tried to solve the puzzle with their minds. Using great intelligence and mystical powers, Marcus treated it like a broken air recycler. He traced power connections. He mapped data flows. He identified input and output nodes, while the puzzle changed and evolved, trying to confuse him. Marcus methodically figured out what each part actually did. After 40 minutes, he found what he was looking for. The puzzle was not meant to be solved by being smarter than it. It was meant to be understood as what it actually was, a machine with a specific purpose. Marcus opened his toolkit and carefully disconnected 3 specific connections. The entire device stopped moving and played a soft chime. "Impossible," breathed Counselor Thane. "Not impossible," Marcus said, putting his tools away. "Just complicated. Most problems look harder than they really are." The chamber shifted again for the trial of heart. This time, Marcus found himself in a space that felt like being inside someone's mind. Ghostly figures appeared around him, speaking in voices that came from inside his own thoughts. "Why do you seek to mate with the queen?" one figure asked. It looked like Marcus himself, but dressed in rich clothes and wearing a crown. "Do you desire power?" "No," Marcus answered honestly. "Then you want wealth." Another figure appeared, this one showing Marcus surrounded by treasure. "The next command resources beyond imagination." "No." "Fame." "Then?" A third figure showed Marcus being cheered by millions of beings across the galaxy. "You would be the most famous human who ever lived." Marcus shook his head. "I don't want any of those things." The figures circled closer, their voices becoming angry. "Liar. Everyone wants something. What do you really desire?" The truth was simple, even if it sounded foolish. "I want to fix things. I want to help people, and I want to understand why someone as amazing as Queen Lyrali thinks I'm worth choosing." The figures recoiled as if he had struck them. "Impossible. No one is truly selfless." "I'm not selfless," Marcus said. "I'm just honest about what makes me happy." The mind-reading attack was designed to find greed, ambition, or hidden desires. It could not handle someone who genuinely wanted simple things for simple reasons. The ghostly figures faded away, defeated by Marcus's basic honesty. The final trial began immediately. Marcus found himself standing in a space where reality changed. With every heartbeat, one moment he was on a burning planet, the next floating in the vacuum of space. Gravity shifted directions without warning. The air became water, then fire, then nothing at all. The trial of spirit, Counselor Thane's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "You must reach the center of this dimension while it attempts to break your will to live. Many have been driven mad before they died." Marcus started walking. Even though the ground kept changing under his feet, sometimes he walked uphill through snow, sometimes downhill through sand, sometimes on walls that had become floors. The dimension threw everything at him. He found himself reliving his worst memories, standing at his father's funeral again, watching his first relationship end badly, feeling small and unimportant in a galaxy full of incredible beings. But Marcus had learned something in his years of fixing broken machines. Things break. It was not personal. It was not permanent. And it was not the end of the story. Things break, and then you fix them, and then you move on to the next job. When the dimension showed him his failures, he accepted them and kept walking. When it showed him his fears, he acknowledged them and kept walking. When it tried to convince him he was worthless, he remembered Queen Lyrale's hand on his helmet and kept walking. The dimension grew frustrated. It was designed to break spirits, but Marcus's spirit was like a well-made tool, simple, practical, and built to last. After what felt like hours, Marcus reached a door marked exit and walked through it. He found himself back in the cargo bay, facing 3 very surprised Nexari counselors and a crowd that had gone completely silent. "How?" Counselor Thane asked, his cold composure finally cracking. Marcus shrugged. "I'm an engineer. We're good at getting through difficult situations step by step." Queen Lyrale's smile could have powered the entire station. But before anyone could speak, alarms started blaring throughout Harmony's Edge. Emergency lights flashed red, and the station shuddered as something large and hostile approached from deep space. The trials were over, but the real test was just beginning. The emergency alarms screamed through Harmony's Edge as Captain Vega's voice crackled over the communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations. unknown vessels approaching at high speed. They are not responding to our signals. Through the cargo bay's viewing ports, Marcus could see ships emerging from hyperspace. They were dark, angular vessels that seemed designed for one purpose: destruction. At least 20 of them, surrounding the station like predators circling prey. The Purity Fleet, Queen Lyrale said, her voice tight with worry. Extremists from multiple species who believe the galaxies should remain separated. Counselor Thane stepped forward, his cold face showing the first signs of fear Marcus had seen. They would rather destroy this station than allow a human Nexari. Union, how long before they attack? Marcus asked. Minutes, maybe less. Captain Vega's voice replied over the speakers. Our weapons are no match for their combined fleet, and our shields won't hold against that kind of firepower. The crowd in the observation decks began to panic. Ambassadors shouted orders to their ships. Parents grabbed their children. Security teams ran toward their posts, knowing it would not be enough. Marcus looked at Queen Lyrale. Her glowing eyes met his, and somehow he knew what she was thinking. We need to get to the main engineering section, Marcus said. Now, what are you planning? Counselor Thane demanded. Something that's never been tried before, Queen Lyrale replied. She took Marcus's hand, and suddenly the world around them shifted. One moment they were in the cargo bay. The next they were standing in the heart of Harmony's Edge's engineering section. Marcus had experienced teleportation before, but this felt different. It felt like Queen Lyrale had simply convinced reality that they needed to be somewhere else. Incredible, Rodriguez gasped from where he stood at the main control console. The Purity Fleet is targeting our power core. If they destroy it, everyone dies. Marcus finished. He moved to his familiar workstation, his hands already flying across the controls. But what if we don't just defend? What if we change the rules? Queen Lyrale moved to stand beside him. What do you need? Tell me about your abilities, Marcus said as he pulled up the station's power grid. You can manipulate reality, right? But there have to be limits. I can reshape matter and energy within a certain range, she explained. But something as large as this station, it would require more power than I possess alone. Marcus nodded, studying the readings. Harmony's Edge was massive, home to millions of beings from dozens of species. Its power systems were designed to handle incredible loads, but they were still just machines. What if you didn't have to do it alone? Marcus asked. The first enemy missiles struck the station's outer shields. The entire structure shuddered, and several displays went dark. I don't understand, Queen Lyrale said. Marcus pointed to the power grid display. This station generates enough energy to power a small planet, but we only use a fraction of it because the systems aren't designed to work together efficiently. What if they were? Another impact shook the station. This time, the lights flickered. You want to rebuild the entire station? During a battle? Rodriguez stared at Marcus like he had lost his mind. Not rebuild, Marcus said, his fingers dancing across multiple keyboards at once. Optimize. Make it work the way it was always supposed to work. He turned to Queen Lyrale. I can reroute power, eliminate inefficiencies, create connections between systems that were never meant to be connected. But I need your abilities to make the physical changes. We work together. Understanding dawned in her ancient eyes, a symbiosis. Your knowledge of how things should work, combined with my ability to make them work that way. Exactly. The third missile strike breached the outer shields. Alarms wailed as atmosphere began leaking from the damaged sections. Do it, Queen Lyrale said. Marcus began typing commands faster than he had ever worked in his life. Years of knowing every system on Harmony's Edge paid off as he rerouted power flows, eliminated redundancies, and created new pathways between previously isolated systems. Power rerouting from life support backup to shield generators. He called out gravity field adjustments to strengthen structural integrity. Environmental systems linking to create station-wide energy recycling. As he worked, Queen Lyrale placed her hands on the main control console. Her glow intensified, spreading through the station's systems like liquid light where her energy touched. Marcus's changes became reality, cables that had never existed. before suddenly appeared, carrying power in new directions. Systems that had worked separately for 50 years suddenly began communicating with each other. The station's heartbeat changed from dozens of separate rhythms to one unified pulse. Impossible, breathed Counselor Thane, who had arrived with the other council members. The energy readings are off all scales on the external monitors. They could see the Purity fleet preparing for their final assault. But something was changing about Harmony's Edge itself. The station's hull began to shimmer with the same light that flowed beneath Queen Liralay's skin, shields at 400% normal capacity. Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with wonder. Power output is stable across all systems. It's like the entire station has become a single living entity. Marcus and Queen Lirale worked together, their minds somehow connected through the station's systems. She could feel his understanding of every mechanical process, every engineering principle. He could sense her ability to reshape reality at the molecular level. Together, they transformed Harmony's Edge into something unprecedented, a perfect fusion of advanced engineering and reality manipulation. When the Purity fleet fired their final, devastating barrage, the station's new shields did not just deflect the attack. They absorbed the energy and converted it into power that made the station even stronger. This is impossible. The enemy fleet commander's voice came over the communication channels. Nothing should be able to withstand that kind of firepower. Surrender now, Captain Vega responded, or face the consequences of attacking a station under the protection of the Nexari Human Alliance. The words hung in space for a long moment. Then, one by one, the Purity fleet ships began to withdraw. As the immediate danger passed, Marcus and Queen Lirale slowly separated their consciousness from the station's systems. But the changes they had made remained. Harmony's Edge had become something new, a living symbol of what different species could accomplish when they worked together. How did you know this would work? Queen Lirale asked, her voice tired but amazed. Marcus smiled. I've been fixing broken things my whole life. The galaxy isn't broken. It's just not working as efficiently as it could be. Counselor Thane approached them, his cold demeanor completely gone. The Union is approved, he said formally. What you have accomplished here proves that some bonds transcend the limitations of individual species. In the days that followed, representatives from across the galaxy came to study what Marcus and Queen Lirale had created. The living station became a model for new kinds of cooperation between species. Human engineers began working alongside Nexari reality shapers. Zephyrian telepaths partnered with human psychologists. Stellarite energy manipulators collaborated with human physicists. Marcus and Queen Lirale established the first symbiosis cores, teams of humans paired with other species to tackle problems that no single race could solve alone. They discovered that humanity's greatest strength was not in being the best at any one thing, but in bringing out the best in others. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of Harmony's Edge, watching ships from 100 different worlds come and go. The station had become the most important diplomatic center in the galaxy, a place where impossible things became possible. Queen Lirale joined him, her hand finding his. Any regrets about your quiet engineering life? Marcus smiled, remembering the simple human engineer he used to be. None at all. Turns out the biggest fix the galaxy needed was just getting everyone to work together. As they watched the stars, the galaxy hummed with new possibilities, all starting with one human who knew how to fix broken things and one queen who saw potential where others saw only limitations. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was simply understanding that everyone had something valuable to contribute.